Welcome to the Genetic Code. I'm your host, Jeanette Collins. This podcast is designed to take you one episode at a time on an intimate journey of your own personal transformation. Each podcast will have tools and techniques for you to practice in your daily life to create the very best version of you. Let's get started. Reframe. Today's episode is all about reframing. This far along your own personal transformational journey, you will have experienced some of those old emotions that you set out to change so you could change your life. When the old negative emotions arise again and you're very familiar with them, it will create a greater level of value for you if you reframe the story around the emotions that are old and negative to a more positive, uplifting narrative. Remember to keep the new story or narrative very short and precise to assist you further in making your desired change. Here's a good example of reframing an emotion from old past negative experiences into a new empowered thought and emotion. A while back, I was going through a very challenging experience. This experience challenged me physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I was having a health crisis and some really terrible pain. The pain was abdominal, and then it would travel down my legs. I was dealing with a lot of blood clots, and that in turn was creating the sensation in my veins in my legs to ache and to spasm. With this experience, I was creating a story for myself that was highly potent with anxiety, fear, hopelessness, and loss. I worked every moment of every day to overcome these emotions while I was still experiencing the condition I was in, physically being unresolved. The condition had pretty much confined me to my bed for almost 5 months. I lived in the real possibility that I was going to bleed to death. After a lengthy ordeal and many doctor visits and hospital stays, a date for surgery was finally set. By this point, I had already had 3 blood transfusions of 2 to 3 units of blood each time. I had been unable to eat anything except to lick the end of a spoon with some yogurt on it to keep me from throwing up. I was gray in color and in excruciating pain for almost 24 hours a day. The lack of sleep only increased the challenge in front of me to overcome my emotions and to find peace and create harmony back into my life. This journey I was on was putting a huge chunk of my old personal beliefs right on the surface of my everyday life. Many days I would be so sobbing and feeling the deep physical pain, and also doing my best to not get caught up in the stories and emotions of feeling so helpless and like a victim in my own experience. Many times a day I would be facing into the physical pain and using the tools I teach in these podcasts to walk my way through the debilitating emotional distress I was in. I was able many times to bring myself out of the fear and anxiety that I was creating, and I could create a more peaceful mind. In consequence, the physical pain would change and lessen a bit as I managed my emotional state. This was such a huge challenge for me. So many times while I was in the middle of this experience, I would say to myself, Jeanette, this is the most challenging thing you've ever done, isn't it? Yes, it is, I'd reply. Then I would say, what an amazing opportunity for you to practice the tools you teach, to experience that thought creates reality. And I can change my thoughts now to elevate my emotions to something greater than fear. I would dry my tears, validate that this was indeed deeply challenging, and that I was, even if I didn't know it yet, I was bigger than this experience. I began seeing this as an initiation into something awesome. I began to reframe the story around the experience. I started imagining the amazing joy I was going to express to others when I recounted the events and how I grew so much more in my connection to my source, and now how I had learned deeply to trust when everything around me looked untrustworthy. Some days I could really bring up the emotion of joy, freedom, health, and relief that I was working to feel and experience. Other times, There were days that I went on for days and days just working to not get swallowed up in the facts surrounding me and my situation. The challenge was real. The physical situation was real. The fears of the outcome were malleable. I could see that how I thought and how I was feeling had a direct effect on my body's ability to heal and come through this experience more refined or not. I knew the experience would pass in time, one way or another. All things eventually come to pass. The bigger question for me was how I was going to walk through this and who I wanted to be on the other side of this experience. That power was completely in my hands, and I knew it. I had my loving daughters and a few close friends and family that showed up for me and reminded me of the intentions I had for myself and to stay inspired. No one but me could do the real work that was required of me to do, to shift my thoughts, to overcome my beliefs in the downward spiral of negative thoughts about the situation I was in. I knew that as much as my loved ones could cheer me on, they were not responsible to hold me up and get me through this. I was. It was up to me to encourage myself to change my limited thoughts to more empowering thoughts, and to be as present as I could with my body and my intentions to walk through this experience with as much self-love and grace as possible. It was my daily task to reframe my experiences as an opportunity, not a punishment. It was my accountability to myself to seek higher ground within my mind, to seek beauty where there was darkness, to shine a light in the fears of my nighttime to myself. That the night wasn't a harder time because I couldn't sleep and was in pain, but a gift to breathe, connect, and feel closer to the creator of source that was in me and everything, and that had to include the experience I was in as well. Some nights I did amazing. Other nights, the battle for higher ground was my journey. Either way, I would tell myself I did a good job, that I was overcoming what to me was the greatest, most challenging experience ever in my life. And I have had some whoppers in my life, so that told me a lot. Every day, multiple times a day, I would catch myself rehearsing an old negative story about myself in this experience. I would notice how I was feeling and how hopeless the situation and I seemed to be. That emotion of lowness was my indicator that my thoughts had run away hours ago to the land of no good. Thankful that my emotions could alert me as to where my sneaky thoughts had gone, I would snap out of my unconscious self, notice that these thoughts only served a purpose to destroy me, and that I was creating those thoughts without even being aware of it. Okay, now I know. And I would reframe the experience once again, from the why me, what did I do wrong to have all this show up for me, to this is my intention, to create through this experience a greater me, a more patient, compassionate, aware me. I am in an initiation into greatness. I will not fail this moment. Whew! I had to be extremely convincing sometimes to pull myself out of those thick, sludgy thoughts that at the time definitely seemed way more true than false. I surprised myself at times too, how creative my mind could get with the thoughts I was choosing, be that positive or negative. I was consciously deciding that no matter what, I was going to be proud of me and the me who was having this experience. I could see that the intensity of the situation was the perfect catalyst to drive up most, if not all, of the old beliefs and patterns that I had formed my life around. What a grand gift, I thought, to have such a massive experience with so many emotions present, constantly to challenge my abilities within, to decide which ones to choose and what emotions to eliminate from my mind and body. I knew from years of practice that if I could hold and feel gratitude without trying to prove I had a reason for gratitude, then all the negative emotions would, by natural cause and effect, become inert within me. That gratitude for the experience was enough to drive me forward, and the emotions of helplessness, fear, or anxiety were not strong enough to withstand the presence of this great gratitude when I was in it. The lesser emotional troops would either join the team or dissolve into empty space within me. Either way, this became my intention to reframe everything I was experiencing with great gratitude. I began to rehearse a new perspective to myself, to remember the end desire and experience, which was to see the experience as one of the best gifts and blessings of my life, and to say to myself about myself, "Well done, Jeanette, well done. You have met the challenge with love, courage, and grace." As anyone listening can imagine, that required me to go deeper within myself than ever before, to decide with my intention in mind that there could be no obstacle so big or overwhelming that could or would cause me to give up my ideal and end result. I knew the power of gratitude, and I wanted to have the feeling of my own appreciation and feeling of worth for walking the walk in front of me with my honor intact for myself and the bigger picture that I knew was forming, despite not being able to fully see it. I could feel it, and that was more than enough. I practiced this within myself every day, all day long. After all, there was no thing that I could get up and go do to distract me from my goal. I could have watched mindless TV or cried and developed an overwhelming victim personality inside myself, but that was not an option for me. Not when I knew that the outcome of this event, that would sometime complete itself, was in my own mind and my abilities to master which thoughts and emotions I would assign to the day's events. I would reframe the meaning that I had formerly assigned to different symptoms to match my desire for gratitude. The day for surgery arrived, August 4th. Just like anything you practice for, when it comes time to put it to the great test and to do it on a big scale, you get to experience the level of devotion and effort you have applied all along the way. What have I truly overcome? What negative emotions are still seeking my attention? And what strengths are rising so naturally for me in seemingly challenging moments? I began to experience, as I went through the hospital doors for surgery, a deeper sense of calm, serenity, peace, anticipation, sometimes that anticipation feeling very similar to anxiety. And I reminded myself that I was safe to trust in myself more now than ever. The main character I knew that I was the one who was the main character on stage, and I was being given an opportunity to act without a pre-written script, to work impromptu with the deep connection I had formed with the divine source within me. This thought gave me a thrill for the opportunity to shine and put myself in a position to be able to offer my greatest self to all those I would encounter. And I did. I had cultivated a deep level of trust within myself that I could fully rely on the source within me to guide me and guide my thoughts, words, and responses. I knew that I could trust me to say what needed to be said and to maintain my own personal power without diminishing anyone else in the meantime. I had an open, loving conversation with the surgeon, letting her know lovingly that we would not be removing my lymph glands for any reason whatsoever. She was only mildly confused at my choice, due to our 2 months' previous journeys of appointments and diagnoses, to which many, if not all of them, I would start out our time together with, "Hello, sweet doc. I'm so grateful that I could choose you to work with. You have such an open mind, and you're a pleasure to be around." I always mentioned in every appointment, including surgery, what a gift we each have to be the blessed stewards over the bodies we occupy, and the joy in being able to make conscious choices to work with the body and not against it. The surgeon told me that she too had learned to let go of her need to do things for protocol reasons when it came to me, and to listen as I told her that my intuition trumped protocol. I would follow and trust this relationship. I had worked so hard to create it, and that if she had an intuitive reason for me to do something, that I would absolutely check within me and trust that when my intuition said that her feeling was on, and that I needed to listen, that I would do so. I desired that the surgeon and staff be respected and honored as the beautiful beings they are, doing such an amazing service for me. After 4 days in the hospital, I left to go home, leaving a 13-pound fibroid, cancerous uterus, ovaries, fallopian tubes, and cervix behind. You see, they were the physical manifestation of trauma when I was in utero, and a collection of extremely traumatizing events through childhood and into early adulthood. Reframing looked like this. How truly grateful am I to the organs inside me to hold such events so I could learn to master my own thoughts and change my behaviors to become a greater version of me. Thank you, body, for your strength and resilience, your amazing ability to heal and to perform such miraculously behaviors in the toughest of times. Thank you, thank you, thank you. After I had woke up from the surgery, I was informed that due to all the problems that the inflammation of the uterus had, the appendix had ruptured 10 weeks earlier and sealed itself off to the colon in a small area to contain the toxins from spreading throughout my body. Thank you again, divine power working through the body for me. Thank you, thank you. This 5-month experience had seen me through 6 full blood transfusions, a large blood clot in the lung, cancer in the uterus, and a ruptured appendix. All the perfect elements for me to face many fears and alchemize them into gratitude and a deeper connection to the divine source within me. To love myself deeper and suspend all judgments of why or how come this experience came into my life. The reframing process is, in my experience, like having a very magical power. The only difference is you understand how you're creating this shift. To take any experience and look for the brightest outcome, and to reframe the belief that was unconsciously assigned to it, is an amazing ability that sits within each of us as an untapped potential. Set your intention for what an outcome could look like for anything you're currently in that is challenging you. Reframe the story to an idea that has beauty, gratitude, and potential for greatness within it. Watch for your low emotional times and see them as an opportunity to become aware of the thoughts of negativity that you were creating and consciously choose greater. The conclusion of this story of mine has brought about many mystical experiences for me. My gratitude for life, a deep love for the life, has forever shifted my perception of who I think I am. I have a more profound knowing that we are unlimited in our abilities to change ourselves and our lives. We just need to be courageous enough to not leave that part of ourselves unexercised. Every day I am more moved to tears of joy that this life has to offer. The journey to change your life, to the journey we are all on, to improve our lives by improving our thoughts, which in turn will improve our emotions and choices, to create more positive experiences. Everyone comes here to have growth and experience the value and power of the abilities within each of us. By our thoughts about the events and circumstances that will produce how we feel about it and ultimately how we choose to act and the ways we choose to live our lives. Set your stage up for you to have the tools to succeed, to know thyself and make improvements to a greater and greater you. Live your life so that your mind can store a past worthy of recall. We all have our challenges. We all have past experiences with which we have the choice to decide how it will define you. Reframe the stories you have been telling about the situations you are currently in. Forgive your past by creating a loving, elevated, empowered future. That way, the new loving you will reframe the past to be more inclusive to the beautiful life you are currently creating. This is your life, and you are the only voice within you making the decisions moment by moment to live as a victim to life or a creator of your life. By understanding that no thought is set in stone, but you have the ability to reframe the meaning behind every experience. Reframe it to the best you can, and let gratitude be your guide. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. Please share this with others and tune in next week for another chance to learn, grow, and become a part of the greatest journey on earth, the journey to transform yourself, to empower yourself, and to extend that love to the world. You are worth it.